Welcome to the episode of Jay Leno's Garage. Today we're talking about French cars. One of the most unusual French cars, and it's unusual even for a French car, which are pretty unusual. If you know Citroën and Peugeot and Renault. This is a Panhard PL17. This is a car that back in the 50s and 60s would have been a competitor for the Volkswagen. Far more interesting car, 2 cylinders, 850 cc's, roller bearing crank, Hemi head, 60 horsepower, top speed just a shade under 100 miles an hour. So it's basically half the size of Volkswagen with half the number of cylinders with twice the power. And just a wonderful, fun car to drive. Just because they're so, well, look at it. It's just so unusual. The French think completely different than the rest of us, and thank God for that. You know, I'm always amazed how you have France here with England, Germany, Spain, and all these people tend to think fairly traditionally about automobiles and where things go, whereas the French think completely different. And although Germany was the birthplace of the automobile, I think it's safe to say France was the nursery. Panhard de la Vasseur, I think I'm saying that right, they sort of invented what we consider the modern interpretation of the automobile. The Panhard system, I think it was called, engine in the front, transmission, driving a rear axle at the back. Although this one is not anything like that. This one is front-wheel drive. You know, French cars have a certain intellectualism about them that I find fascinating. You know, all other cars are developed in sort of gritty industrial areas, Modena, Detroit, Stuttgart, whereas French cars always seem to come out of Paris, the city of lights and architecture and all that kind of thing. And that's why they're just unusual. The French put far more emphasis on comfort when driving. I think French cars are the most comfortable cars in the world. While everybody else focuses on Nürburgring and lap times, they're just about getting there comfortably and, you know, not cracking eggs on the seat when you're driving down the road and things of that nature. But these cars are unusual and they're hard to find. In fact, I looked for one for years. I finally found one, and as soon as I found one, 2 more showed up. So they're a bit like raising rabbits. You get a couple of them, and all of a sudden other ones start to show up. But like I say about any car, if there's a car you're interested in or you want to get for yourself, join the club. No matter how obscure the car you're looking for is, there's a club for it. When I got my Tatra, which is a Czechoslovakian car, I saw an ad for the Tatra Club. And I called the guy and I gave my name. I said, I want to join the club. I just bought it. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I said, what do you get in the club? He says, well, we have the Christmas party once a year, and there's a spare scheme, and we have a newsletter, and then we have a big get-together around the holidays where all the members show up. I said, okay, I'm going to join. So I joined. I says, how many people in the club? He says, with you, that's 4. 4. So there are 4 of us in the club. Wow, okay, and this is a worldwide club. So you don't need a big hall for the Christmas party. So when I was looking for Panhard, I said, well, there must be a Panhard club, and there is. And I'm very fortunate. The president of the club lives in the next state over, in Reno, Nevada. John Peterson. John, come on in here. And as you'll see, they're a quirky lot, these French Panhard guys. And John is certainly no exception, but a very bright guy and extremely helpful in getting parts for this car, because you have to speak French or know French people, and all the parts are in France, and he's been invaluable in getting this one to run. This is a 1960 PL17. It has not been restored per se, so much as just cleaned up, and John was certainly instrumental in helping me to get this thing running, and I really enjoy this car. So how did you get into it?
Well, I lived in Europe when I was a kid, 1963 to 1967. And during that time were all these crazy cars that we didn't see so many of here in this country. Messerschmitts, Izettas, DKWs, Fiats, and things that you saw once in a while. But when I saw these cars, they were part of my teenage years. Right. And I wasn't afraid of them. So I've had many Panhards and Citroëns. I've owned 45 cars. I haven't kept them all, but I still have 3 of these at home, and a Citroën and some other weird vehicles. So they live at my house too.
And Panhard was the longest continuous automobile manufacturer in the world. And they sort of I think they merged in the late 60s with Citroën.
Yes, sir.
The grandson just passed away. Last year at 103.
Amazing.
Yeah, so, I mean, and he has a link all the way back to the early days. And this is a very innovative company at the time.
Well, what happened was they were making very stylish cars right from the beginning, but they made low production numbers, and they didn't make cars for the population.
Right, they were expensive cars.
And they were expensive. Yeah. And after World War II, because of the shortage of resources and supplies and things, and the European economy needed cars for people, and they made cars like this, which were basically small cars with motorcycle motors.
Right.
So Panhard kind of jumped on the bandwagon and was able to produce these cars, and some little earlier versions than these that were all aluminum, which actually caused the company to go into bankruptcy, and that's when Citroën came in as the benevolent big brother and took over.
And although this car is pretty quick for its size, the aluminum car is even quicker.
Yes.
Because it weighed, what, a third less? 40%
Amazing.
less?
Just
something
amazing.
like that. But of course, aluminum being expensive,
yes,
it's hard to work with. Well, let's show them the centerpiece of this. Let's open the hood and show them what the engine is. You want to? Go ahead. I'll let you do the honors.
All righty.
Okay, this is a great motor. It has, okay.
There it is.
Now, here you have twin cylinders, 850 cc's, Hemi head, right?
Yes, sir.
Torsion bar valve springs, roller bearing crank, air cooled, your fan is in here. It makes 60 horsepower when a 4-cylinder Volkswagen of, what, 12 or 1300 cc's made 35?
30, yep, or low 30s,
something like that. So these were actually quite fast. And the nice thing is, when you work on it, you just unbolt the motor mount and you lift the engine up and you put the engine on your work stand, you repair it, and you put it back in, which is what we've done a couple of times. Only the French could think of this. You know, your exhaust pipe coming out of the exhaust is also the motor mount. Look how unusual that is. I mean, you're not going to see that anywhere else. And look at the way it just hangs out over the front. Look at these big rubber motor mounts, which, again, I got these through John. I was very grateful. You're not going to find those down at your Napa store. And of course, you've got your little apple juice master cylinder there that you have a solid glass bottle that holds your brake fluid. It's just a fascinating piece of kit. It's a 4-speed gearbox. It drives and handles wonderfully, and it just loves to rev. I mean, you're going down the road, turning 7,000 RPM, going about 90 miles an hour. It's just so much fun, whereas the Volkswagen kind of reaches its peak and stays there. It seems under stress. This is alive. It screams and it makes all kinds of noise and it revs, and it's just wonderful. And at idle, it kind of does this, and then as soon as you give it a little bit of gas, it smooths out, and then you pull away. Tell us some other features. What have I missed?
Well, one of the things about Panhards and some other cars too is there's nothing that's chromed on here. This is all brushed aluminum.
Yeah.
It's all aluminum that's been polished out. Even this piece here, the headlights, what we call the eyebrows, the trim over the headlights. So it's lighter and can be polished up relatively easily. Parts in the engine are still all available, which was really great for Jay getting this model. Some other models are a little more difficult, but we could get all that he needed for this relatively easily.
And look how accessible everything is. Here's your distributor right here, right on the top, where it should be. It's not buried under hoses and things of that nature. There's your fuel pump right here. I mean, it's all right there in front of you. The ad for the car is hysterical because they show 6 people riding in the car, you know, 3 in the front, 3 in the back. And I don't know whether they're circus people or whatever it is, but somehow they get 6 people in this thing, and it's really funny. You know, and the French guy smoking a cigarette, you know, he's kind of a bon vivant driving around Paris. And 850 cc's is nothing.
Well, you were also taxed by how much displacement your motor had. So if you could get a smaller engine that could give you a little more torque, you paid less tax in the long run.
Put that back down again. There you go. And it's pronounced Panhard?
The French call it pas.
Panhard.
Pas, yes. Panhard. So you just lose a lot of letters of the alphabet through there.
And of course, the dashboard. Could it be more space age? This thing is 1960, and you got suicide doors, and you got this space pod, for lack of a better word, this piece of plastic here, which is just so unusual. But I imagine that must have been all the rage in Paris. It must have seemed very space age around 1960 when this car came out.
And really, for this car, that's all you needed. I
Yeah.
mean, you didn't get a tack with this model.
No.
You didn't have oil. Well, you have a light for oil pressure, but
Right.
fuel gauge and whether the engine's charging, the battery's getting charged up.
Your oil pressure is kind of splash lubricated on this thing.
Yes.
Isn't it? Yeah. So there's no pump per se.
There is a pump way up inside, but
yeah, that's right.
and a little screen.
Yeah, but it's mostly just throwing the oil every which way. And you have a 4-door here. You got light here, and you actually can put quite a few people in this thing. The person I got it from chose to put these plastic seat covers on it, which are just wonderful in the heat. You enjoy that. It's just so unusual, but I must admit, it puts a smile on my face when I drive it, because it just loves to rev. You know, we go back to that thing about driving a slow car quickly, in a lot of ways is more fun than driving a fast car fast, because in a fast car fast, you're always going to be in trouble. This thing, the car's screaming its brains out, you know, you're having a lot of fun, you think you're flying around corners, and girls go by putting on lipstick, you know, and you go, oh, I wasn't going that fast. It just seems like I'm going that fast. No. All your drivetrain and everything in the front, that gives you a nice flat floor, front and back. And I guess you could put 6 people in this. You have a full-size trunk. This is probably the best book on Panhard if you're interested in these vehicles. I got this at Auto Books on Magnolia Boulevard in Burbank, California. You can look them up on the website. But it's just everything you sort of need to know. History, maintenance. It's just a wonderful, and it's such an innovative automobile. And these, as the French love to do what I do. You buy the book, and you assume it's in English. And these, I've bought a bunch of these books. This is the only one that's in English. But I looked at the pictures, so that was helpful. But these are 3, and these are real cult cars in Europe. People just go nuts for them. This one, Panhard Dyna Z and P17. But this is really the one to get. This is the newest book out, and it's only a year or so old, something like that.
Yes.
And it's really excellent. Gives you all the history, how to work on them. And they're really a joy to drive and work on, because you really get a sense of accomplishment, because it's basically pretty simple, but also really, really clever. And that's the fun part that I like about it. You got a full-size spare tire. You've got the most unusual styling. Let me take these out of here and shut this. I'm not quite sure why we have the eyebrows over the taillights, but it's just unusual. As John said, it's all polished aluminum. Did you know this car before I got it?
Yes.
Yeah. So
I know 2 owners before you.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yes.
So you know the history of it. We had to replace quite a bit, a little window trim. There was no body rod in the car, but because it's a hot climate in Texas where I got it,
yep,
all the seals, all the rubber had cracked and broken. So we didn't want to do a total restoration. I just wanted to make it a nice driver. And it is so much fun to drive. Yours is a 100% restoration car, isn't it?
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you're the president. Well, you have to have the...
Well, I had to do that.
Yeah, as president, that is required.
Yeah.
You have to have the best example of it.
But on the West Coast, because of the sun and dry, it cooks all the rubber and the plastic.
Right.
On the East Coast, the rubber's good, but all the metal rusts out.
Right, right. So you want to get a car from the Midwest, just a little
Half
bit of
and
rust,
half. Exactly,
a little bit of rubber,
yeah.
yeah. How many of these are in the United States, do you think?
Of this model is just a little over 100.
That's all?
That's all right now that I know of.
Yeah.
And the other variations of Panhard after World War II, we're probably looking at about 180 cars.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they also race these at Le Mans, but it was the Panhard engine in the
Deutsche Bonnet, DB.
Deutsche Bonnet, that's
Bonnet.
right. What, were they fiberglass bodies? Is that what they were?
They were fiberglass bodies with
Okay.
a tubular steel frame.
And they won the Index of Performance
Well, what the French did was, if they knew their car wasn't going to win the main prize, they would create a category that their car would win.
Yeah, see, that's what I love. That's what I love about the French. But, you know, I just find French engineering remarkable, not in a sarcastic way, in a truly original way, just because they think differently. I mean, you look at the steering wheel, you look at the dashboard, there's no other car that looks like this. And for a small car to have so much innovation is amazing. I mean, the Volkswagen, when it came out, was a wonderful car, but it was somewhat traditional. It was a four-cylinder engine, and the dashboard had nothing special about it. It was, the only thing different about it was they never changed the body style, so that kind of kept it interesting. But this has all these little styling cues in it, hidden doors and pockets, and, you know, bright, cheery interiors. Volkswagens always had kind of a dour look, especially after the war. You know, they were gray and black and tan interior. Where these were sort of happy-looking cars. That this car makes my wife smile. Like I'm down the driveway, it's like, oh, you know, you're not going to be scared of somebody pulling in something like this.
Well, the model earlier than this had a little driving light or fog light underneath between the hood and the bumper, and it looked like a tongue was sticking out.
Yeah.
So that obviously made it look
And
funny.
really, what's more French than a French car sticking his tongue out at an American? I mean, really, that's just perfect. It's perfect. And well, they should. And you know, there's a reasonable amount of room. Look at that. I mean, I have this, that's my battery charger in there. I have the seat all the way back, and look, there's really, as you can see, a big fat American can sit back here comfortably. So it's really not bad at all. I mean, it feels so much bigger on the inside. That's what's so funny. And like all French cars, there are just ashtrays everywhere.
May I mention something too?
Yeah, go.
If you can see the top of the back
the
seat,
clip, yeah.
that flips down or comes out because a lot of cars in Europe at this time, 50s and 60s, they made the back seat fold down or come out. You could put a 4x8 sheet of plywood in there, or a casket or whatever.
Or casket, there you go.
That's always
casket, good. Or a pair of skis.
Yeah, you could just take that right out.
Yeah. What else is unusual here? This one has an antenna, but there's no radio in it. What else is unusual? Radial tires.
Well, it also has a lot of sports cars, cars that people make up today, have what's called a Panhard rod in the back. And it has two Panhard rods, one for each wheel. And they're just three tubes that come across and have a little bracket that holds onto them. And as that twists and turns, that's the suspension in the back.
Right, right. And hence from Panhard.
Panhard rod, yeah.
But they were one of the most innovative companies in the world when they came out. And they were right up until, well, the day they went out of business.
1967.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
And here's your gas filler door here. See, this is the Panhard Tiger. This is the Tiger. That's the Tiger model. That's 60 horsepower. That's the big high performance. Like the regular one would be the Chrysler 440. This would be the Hemi.
Yeah.
Got 60 horsepower. But you know, it feels like a lot more. So, shall we take it for a ride?
Yes, sir.
Come on, we'll do it. Hop in. It makes the coolest noise.
Nothing like it.
Huh?
I've got a video of sounds of these things going by a microphone.
Yeah.
I should burn a copy and just send it to you. You can go to sleep, you know.
Oh, the wife would love that.
Oh. No car sounds like this engine.
No.
Isn't that amazing?
What's redlining this thing, about 5,300?
Yeah, I think 5355.
Nice thing about this car is you can more than keep up with traffic. I mean, it's not, I'm in fourth and I feel like I'm lugging it at 50.
Yeah, it really has a good power band.
Yeah. The engine just feels alive. It's a lot of fun.
And the rack and pinion steering makes it track pretty good.
Yeah, it does, you know. This is so much more fun than a Volkswagen Bug.
Oh yeah, every day.
This has more character. You can get 6 people in this thing. besides France, which country has the most Panhard? Do you know? Any idea?
I would say Germany.
Germany, yeah.
Germany has a lot of Panhards. And over there, they can all get together.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, they can drive, 4 hours and they're in the other country. But we had a lot of Deutsch Bonets here.
Yeah.
Because when they would build them and ship them over here, people could snap them up and take them out and race them right out of the showroom floor.
Are they better than these?
Yeah, they're faster because
Yeah.
the bodies weigh, 2/3 less than this thing.
Right.
Same engine, transmission,
And they're a little more stylish. 2 doors. And,
Yep.
Yeah. 2-seaters.
Yes. Fiberglass bodies.
Now, was Deutsch Bonnet a manufacturer or a coach builder? Or
Coach
what?
builder. What they would do is take Panhard mechanicals and put that underneath their body, their fiberglass body, and they take them out and race them.
I mean, it handles very nicely in the corners.
Rack and pinion steering,
Yeah.
it helps. And the double leaf spring suspension in the front, direct from the 1800s.
This thing is so much fun to drive. Let's put our cameraman in the back and you'll see what it's like from inside the car. It's kind of cool. There you go. You got your dashboard. Look, you got a drawer there. You got a drawer there. You got all kinds of drawers in this thing. Speedometer, gas, ashtray. Look at the ashtray. I love that. Kind of goes around in a circle. It's like you're driving a space pod. They make great conversation pieces because even most car guys have no idea what it is.
When I take mine to car shows,
Yeah.
people think it's a baby Packard.
Oh, Packard? Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, they think Panhard is Packard.
It is a Packard. I said, no, you need to get your money back from your last eye exam because you
Yeah.
got gypped. It says Panhard.
Yeah.
Oh, but isn't that a Packard? No.
You know, when you have a lot of cars, air-cooled cars are great because there's no corrosion, there's no water. That's the wonderful thing about them. Volkswagens, Panhards, they can sit for years and not deteriorate because there's no minerals, nothing's eating through the metal. Let's see what she does on the freeway. Probably not going to pass the camera car today. Just keep your foot planted on the floor. That's the whole secret. And this is what it likes, 65, 70.
Very happy at that speed.
Yeah. Yep. No vibration through the steering wheel hardly at all.
Isn't that amazing? A 56-year-old car drives as nice as this.
Oh, and another panel over here.
Yep. That's for your cigars.
Yeah.
And this model, the PL17, won the 1961 Monte Carlo Rally.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
What kind of gas mileage you get on yours?
I'm getting over 40 on mine.
It is over 40, huh?
Yeah, it's incredible.
I love driving this thing. It's so silly, but it's unique. It's fun. It's really different. Nobody else has got one. I want to thank John Peterson from the Panhard Club. Thank you, John, for coming down.
Jay.
And if you're interested in these cars or you'd like to get one and know more about them, here's his website and that book I mentioned at Auto Books on Magnolia Boulevard in Burbank, California. They've got books on every obscure car you never heard of. But so much for the plugs. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. A little bit of France today, a little bit of European thing. It was kind of cool. And I'm going to go drive this some more. It's a lot of fun. See you guys later. it.